Hi everybody, I am Blogger Girl and I have been reviewing the Idaho 4 book, An American Tragedy. Now we are on we've done chapters 1 through 24, including the prologue, and now we are on to chapters 25 through 30 is what I think I'm going to shoot for. So chapter 25 starts in Center Valley, Pennsylvania, 2018 is what they have at the top. And they basically say that Brian's new classmates in his psychology program at DeSales call him the Ghost, saying that there's something spooky about him. And I feel like already they're trying to set the tone of and a picture of Brian. They're saying every day he shows up in basically the same attire, a wrinkled black long sleeve button down shirt, tan leather jacket, and he has a silver laptop and a Starbucks coffee cup. I don't see anything weird about that. There's a lot of people in college wear the same thing all the time, and he may not have a lot of money, especially when he comes from the Poconos, right? And then they say after class, it's just poof, he leaves. If it's a commuter school, I can see that being like a very normal thing. They mention that he has a nighttime security job and any other job that he can get. And now they enter Josh Ferrero, a lab partner that he has. They said that Josh basically says his guy's eyes seem unnaturally wide and they're constantly darting around while his face is completely still. Now we know that that's probably a symptom of his autism. Again, they're painting a narrative of saying it's unnerving, Josh thinks, which I thought was interesting. The whole time throughout this book, they've been painting this narrative of already setting him up to be a murderer. Except for his class with Dr. Catherine Ramsland, who studied a lot of prolific serial killers, including BTK, which stands for Bind, Torture, and Kill. And she did a book on him and wrote back and forth with him for many years, so she had a lot of inside scoop into his brain, and he let her study him. Brian basically gets more animated in her class and is just really excited to be there. Dr. Ramsland will take the students into what she calls a crime scene house. She gives them a scenario, and then they're asked to theorize about what happened. Now, it says Dr. Ramsland teaches her students that killers get tunnel vision when they are committing murder. That's why mistakes get made. Amid the high adrenaline and hyper-focus on the act itself, killers can forget things they otherwise would not. And I put a note saying, insinuating this is what Brian did with the knife sheath. Now they talk about a paper he would later write, saying quotes like staging is common and talking about fiber-free clothing. And I put a note saying that, well, that's normal for crime students. They're going to talk about stuff like that. That's not abnormal. So then there's this statement that says the DeSales students also study criminal profiling. They learn what sort of person chooses what sort of murder weapon. Typically, Ramsland tells them white men choose knives. And I was like, oh my God, stop. Like, you guys are trying to find connections and it just feels very forced versus just like a natural, like, oh, okay, this is what happened. It's more of like, let's find connections anywhere we can to say that he was a murderer back then. It says at the course that they learn about digital forensics and that it's nearly impossible to delete one digital footprint. And they learn about procedure and law and how the legal process would likely play out if one of them was charged with murder. He texts his friend Jack that he wants to catch high-profile offenders. So that's what Brian wants to do. Now again, they say that Dr. Ramsland is an expert on serial killers like Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, and Ed Kemper. She wrote a book based on her years with correspondence with Dennis Rader, the infamous BTK killer. And then she says that there's a theory that she's been finding arguing that psychopaths aren't the product of socioeconomic environment alone. Biology has a larger role than people previously thought. The brains of psychopaths are structurally and functionally different from other people's, which means the only way to cure a psychopath is to get him therapy at a very early age, around the age of 4, and to try to train his brain to change. Brian listens carefully to this and takes more notes. His classmates can't see what he's writing. Now, I know that they're trying to relate Brian to Elliot Rodger, who went on a mass killing spree because of his supposed rejection from women. So they say that in one of his series he recorded in May 2014, he delivers a message to all the girls who have rejected him and later embarks on a murderous rampage. Dr. Ramsland, or Professor Ramsland, explains that the police need better training to spot the telltale signs of potential suicidal mass murderer. And these are the signs that she's saying. It's called Is Path Warm is like the acronym, and it stands for ideation, substance abuse, purposelessness, anxiety, trapped, hopelessness, withdrawal, anger, recklessness, and mood changes. And then again, they're setting the scene again, trying to find some type of relation. They said, as they learn this, the students don't realize that one of them, Brian, exhibits every single one of these symptoms. I put, oh my God, again. Now they're trying to find the similarities between him and Roger, Elliot Rodger. Brian is a virgin who hates women, copes with loneliness by immersing himself in video games. He goes for long night drives. He visits the gun range. He goes to a local bar and tries to pick up women. A lot of those things seem very normal. A lot of people do that. And doesn't make every guy a psycho. Now, I'm not saying Brian didn't do this, but I have not seen definitive evidence to make me feel like he did, other than his confession. And even on his confession, I just felt like it was forced and rushed. So it doesn't make any sense. I'm not understanding why he would do this, other than maybe he was pressured or threatened in some way, or his loved ones were. But we will find out the truth. And that's another reason why I'm reading this book, is to really try to see what the other side is thinking and what they're putting out there. So chapter 27 starts with Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, 2019. Brian takes the scenic route through the Lehigh Valley, and that he's parking across the street from Seven Sirens Brewing Company, which is more like a Manhattan loft space than a college town bar. They make this statement that the students from nearby Lehigh University come here often. Brian knows this. That's why he's here. How do they know this? They're just subjecting. Like they're guessing is what I'm saying. Like they're not in Brian's head. They don't know what he was doing. He hasn't said anything yet. So it's like they're insinuating stuff. Again, they mention Elliot Rodger, who wrote that he kept trying to place himself in settings where he could pick up women, but no one noticed him. And then they start moving on to saying women have started complaining to the brewery's owner, Jordan Sorulnik, about the creepy guy with the bulging eyes, so he put the kid on his watch list. This guy confronts Brian and says, hey, I need you to leave women alone. There's been some complaints. Brian feigns astonishment. He gives a heck of a performance, almost Broadway level. Sorulnik will remember and demonstrate it in the future. Demonstrate what? How Brian's astonished that he's saying that? That's a little weird. And they say that Brian doesn't come back after he confronts him. I wouldn't either if someone was like accusing me of something like that. I should probably put a light on so you can see my face. Chapter 28, Effort, Pennsylvania, 2021. Brian is immersed in studying for his master's degree. One of his professors, Michelle Bolger, wants to recommend him for a PhD in criminal justice at Washington State University. If he was so terrible, why would she do that? And on March 16th, he gets the news that Jeremy Saba, the kid that always got him in trouble into drugs and stuff, is actually dead. Brian was away when Jeremy died in rehab, and his parents didn't want to tell him while he was trying to get sober. And also get his life back together, you know? But what's weird is that the Kobergers, Mr. and Mrs. Koberger, Brian's parents, said that they saw Jeremy and his parents at Texas Roadhouse, a steakhouse in Schroedsburg, and it was a good meeting. Brian's dad told Jeremy he was proud of him for getting clean. Now Brian pounds the table with his fist. No, it's just weird. It's like they keep, I don't know. So dramatic. He knows that the tipping point for Elliot was lost. And they're trying to equate that the tipping point for Brian was his loss of his friend Jeremy, because they're saying Elliot lost his best friend James Ellis, and that's what set him off. I'm going to try to do one more chapter, chapter 29, Pullman, Washington, April of 2022. Gary Jenkins, the head of the Pullman Police Department, has a list of questions, and intern candidate he's Zooming with is Brian. Make a statement saying that he certainly has no idea that just last month Koberger purchased a K-bar knife sheath and sharpener on Amazon for unknown purposes. How is that relevant to them talking about him doing an intern interview? Chief Jenkins knows that Brian is an incoming graduate student, teaching assistant, and is well regarded in the criminology department at Washington State University. He applied for the internship at the Pullman PD, but that Gary doesn't think that he can build trust with this department. There's something antisocial about him. Well, yeah, he's autistic. If you think about it, that could be considered discrimination. Talk about Brian moving to Washington State on Pullman, and that they're again relating him to Elliot Rodger, and that he gave himself one last chance to move to another city and try over. And that they say Brian puts the key in the ignition, one last try. And I put, oh my God, stop. Anyway, if you want to keep following, make sure you like and comment, and I will bring you the next part.